This year, at least 18 people have been injured by dolphins in Japan alone, sustaining bites or broken bones. Although unconfirmed, there is evidence that these attacks are all caused by the same male dolphin that was responsible for a string of dolphin attacks in Japan over the last few years, resulting in multiple injuries. I'm KP, a marine biologist who specializes in marine mammals. Today we're talking about the dark side of dolphins. Quick warning, I'll be showing clips of animals attacking people, including some attacks that do appear to be attempted mating behaviors on the dolphin's part. This may come as a surprise to a lot of people because dolphins are widely beloved animals. They are charismatic, playful, and extremely intelligent. Maybe that's why there is a general misconception that dolphins are friendly, when the truth is, they're still wild animals, and all wild animals have the potential to be unpredictable and aggressive when we encroach on their space. It doesn't matter if it is a bison in Yellowstone, or a sea lion by a pier, or a river otter playing in your backyard. This includes dolphins who have attacked humans in the wild before, sometimes fatally. Some of these attacks appear to be unprovoked, but not all of them. In 1994, a swimmer in Brazil died from a provoked dolphin attack. And how did this swimmer provoke the dolphin? Well, the swimmer was reportedly drunk and trying to shove a cigarette down the dolphin's blowhole. What about the string of attacks in Japan? The thinking among local marine biologists is that the dolphin is lonely, and how do I put this without getting in trouble? Romantically frustrated. Basically, many believe that these attacks are a result of the dolphin trying to mate with the beachgoers. As weird as that sounds, this behavior isn't anything new. In 2002, swimmers in Weymouth, England were warned to stay away from an amorous dolphin who made a home at a popular tourist resort. Thousands of people would go out on boats to swim with him. But he started getting very excited and began isolating swimmers by circling them and separating them away from the crowd before trying to mate with them. There's also a video of a dolphin behaving this way with a snorkeler. While this is obviously disturbing, many marine mammal experts are hesitant to call it malicious. Some actually think it's a defensive behavior for when humans get too close to them. A study of bottlenose dolphins living off the coast of Zanzibar found that dolphins experienced incredible stress when tourists swam with them, particularly when the tourists got very close and tried to touch the dolphins, who then spent far less time feeding, socializing, and resting. This isn't exclusive to dolphins. Many marine animals experience high levels of stress when humans get too close. Take sharks, for example. There are 500 species of sharks found throughout the world, and the three that most likely attack you are white sharks, tiger sharks, and bull sharks. Number 4 is the nurse shark. This is surprising because nurse sharks are relatively docile, making them popular in zoos and aquariums. They're number 4 in attacks because people are touching them, petting them, and provoking them. Humans are harassing these nurse sharks who are quite simply defending themselves. But if dolphin attacks are more common than we think, why do we rarely hear about them? For one, dolphin attacks look very different from attacks by other animals. With a few exceptions, sharks attack with their mouth and teeth, whereas dolphins often stun their prey by ramming with their rostrums, similar to how bison use their horns. They also slap other animals with their powerful flukes, the same way a horse might kick with the powerful hind legs. Animals also have different ways of exploring their environment. Most animals don't have hands like we do, so they use their sensitive mouths and teeth to investigate in what's known as exploratory or sample bites. Dogs do this, seals and sea lions do this, and so do sharks and dolphins. Dolphins just tend to do it the way that they do everything, with just a little bit more finesse. An exploratory bite from a dolphin would be something more like a firm grip on your arm or shoulder, whereas an exploratory bite from a large shark can result in devastating injuries. Here's an example of an exploratory bite from a pilot whale. the whale grabbed her leg and pulled her 30 feet underwater. The diver suffered only minor injuries and has said that even though she was terrified and convinced she was going to die, she didn't really feel like the whale was being aggressive and was probably just playing. Playing when you're that big can be deadly. But wait, this is a pilot whale, right? Just like killer whales, pilot whales are actually a large species of dolphin. And if you want to learn more about why some dolphins are called whales, just check out this video right up here. Speaking of killer whales, it is a widely held belief that they have never attacked a human in the wild. But this is not true. While rare, orcas absolutely have attacked humans in the wild. Most recently in Iberia, where the Gladys orcas have attacked over 500 boats, sinking 5 of them.
That's 10 miles away.
Some argue that these shouldn't count as attacks because no humans have been harmed so far. But I disagree because no humans were harmed here.
Oh shit.
Or here. And if both of those are attacks, then why don't these attacks count?
We need assistance. We need assistance immediately. We are sinking.
In 2011, during the filming of a BBC documentary Frozen Planet, a group of orcas tried to swamp the cruise Zodiac with waves, the same way that they wash seals off ice floes. This is clearly a predatory behavior. If these orcas had been successful in knocking someone off of the boat, let's just say, I'm glad that didn't happen. Okay, but what about an actual physical attack on a human? The most severe attack was on a surfer in Big Sur, California. He was waiting for a wave when an orca came up from behind and bit his leg. It eventually did let go and the surfer was able to swim to shore. His wound required 100 stitches, and according to the doctor, it looked like someone had chopped his leg with an axe. Orcas have also been documented chasing surfers out of the water, as we see in this video from 2013. And again, many argue that these do not count as attacks, that they are cases of mistaken identity, and the orcas just confused humans with seals and sea lions. I don't know if I agree with this, and I'll explain why in a second, but I do want to point out that mistaken identity is the prominent theory explaining unprovoked shark attacks. The mistaken identity explanation for shark attacks has been tested in several peer-reviewed studies. One study compared video footage of seals and sea lions with humans swimming and humans paddling on surfboards from the perspective of a white shark, viewing from below. The videos were processed through a shark's retina to see how a shark would detect the visual motion and the shape cues. The study showed that from the perspective of a white shark, there is no noticeable distinction between the shape and motion of pinnipeds and that of humans. Orcas have an advantage over sharks in this case, and it's called echolocation. Dolphin echolocation is the most advanced biosonar in the world and has been heavily studied by the US Navy's Marine Mammal Program. When they echolocate on a surfboard, they can tell that it is inorganic material and not food. When they echolocate on humans, they can tell that we're not seals. And killer whales are extremely picky eaters. For example, salmon makes up 96% of the resident killer whale diet, and Chinook salmon in particular. They will literally starve to death before they eat something different, which is weird because they don't have taste buds. We're just not on an orca's menu. We're not really on a shark's menu either. In fact, great white sharks usually spit out humans after they bite because they apparently realize that we're not seals. This has led to the exploratory bite theory we talked about earlier. As we look at all these instances, you might have noticed an emerging theme. Whenever a dolphin or a whale attacks a human, there's always a reason or an explanation for why it's not an attack. Maybe it's play, mistaken identity, exploratory bites, or the attacks are provoked by humans. Other animals, like sharks for example, don't get the benefit of the doubt, even though the vast majority of shark attacks are also mistaken identity, exploratory bites, or provoked by humans. Now, the point of this video isn't to demonize dolphins, it's to point out that we do treat them very differently than we treat other animals. One reason is because we like dolphins and whales. Like I said in the beginning, these animals are charismatic, playful, extremely intelligent, very social animals. People want to protect them, and they're afraid that framing these interactions as attacks could generate hype and fear and create a negative opinion of the animals, which is exactly what has unfairly happened to sharks. But the unintended consequence here is that people have become far too comfortable interacting with wild dolphins and even orcas. Recently, a Canadian scuba diver was fined $12,000 for attempting to swim with the endangered southern resident killer whales. And just a few months ago, a New Zealand man jumped off his boat and tried to land on the back of an orca. These are still wild animals, and as I said in the beginning, all wild animals have the potential to be unpredictable and aggressive when we encroach on their space and don't give them the respect that they deserve. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.